Episode number 5. It's been a while.
Number 5.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Still
and
broke.
Still broke. Still don't know what we're doing.
Sounds about right. So, what's going on? I feel it's been a little while. We had a little break in our recording, so we haven't talked in a little while.
Haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah, a lot of things are going on.
Yeah.
FTX bankruptcy estate says Grayscale owes creditors $550 million. So that's going to be cool.
And Grayscale has filed bankruptcy. Is that right?
I
Chapter
don't know
11?
if Grayscale did. I think Genesis did.
Genesis did.
Yeah, so I was listening to another podcast yesterday with the CEO of Grayscale,
Okay.
Sun and Shine, and he made that very clear, that there is a very clear demarcation. Of course he would say that.
Of course.
So I don't know how Grayscale owes creditors $550 million, but that's an interesting one. Mining difficulty all-time high.
That's right. People keep plugging in the miners, even though
it's getting unreal, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna put a crunch on the guys with the 7, 8, and 9 cent power.
Yeah, I went to dinner last night with the gridless guys, the Kenyan mining guys.
Yeah.
And a big portion of what we talked about was what mining looks like past 5 years.
Wow.
And for the first time in my mining career, I don't know the answer. I don't have any semblance of what the answer might be, right? So if I'm thinking about it, what does mining look like in the States? If you're not doing like some very bespoke power trading, and I mean like stuff that nobody's talking about, and you don't have like very competent power traders on your team, and you're doing more power trading than you are mining, and mining is just like a piece of your puzzle, I don't think you're going to last. Because if you think about it, if the halving comes and we're at where we are now, almost everybody's rinsed out. Let's say Bitcoin goes to 50K. Yeah. Okay, we are where we are now, which is still super tight margins. Some people that I respect a lot in this space, and I'm sure you do too, have filed for bankruptcy. So like, if we talk about what does the landscape look like in the States in 5 years, I think it's easy to say, unless Bitcoin goes crazy, which is also possible, like the price goes crazy, I think it's easy to make the case that you're going to become a power trader or a generator or a power company in some regard, and mining is just part of your strategy.
So to help people understand, like, what are the margins currently, like that you're seeing for most of these miners?
They range a lot. I think that on the top end, you're looking at like if you're running all XPs, you know, the most efficient of the most efficient, which most people aren't because their pricing is crazy, and you have really good power. I mean, your margins are still like maybe 40, 50% before whatever kind of nuanced OpEx you may have. But most people aren't there. Most people are like, you know, 10 to 30.
Okay.
Which is still like an okay business model, but
so they're minting Bitcoin around 16,000.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 16 to 18. Some people are, you know, the top end people are, you know, at like maybe 8K, 10K. But we're not seeing really juicy, you know, 90% margins anymore. And
a lot of this is just because the ridiculously high difficulty, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people built their businesses on 90% margins.
Yeah.
So there are tons of folks who are not in a good spot, and I only see that continuing. So if I think about where's the only place you can mine at scale, a lot of people want to talk about Flare. My opinion, and I'll get crucified for this, but my opinion, Flare is just like, it's a whole different can of worms. You've got to have crazy maintenance on site. You've got to have people who really know gensets very well. I mean, you're burning the vapors of dinosaur bones to mine Bitcoin, which is like, it's not a incredibly scalable business because it's mostly containerized solutions. You're not going to get like 100 megawatts off of one well. So, you might be looking at like 500 kilowatts here, top end 5 megawatts here. Like there are some places that can get bigger than that, but it's just a whole really hardcore business model.
It becomes like very modular and spread out
Yeah, so if
and
you want to repair
management
things, you got to
nightmare.
open up like 10, 20 containers, right? It's from a management standpoint, you got internet issues, water issues if you need water for your setup. Like it's a super non-trivial thing to do. I'm not saying people aren't going to do it. There are some people who are very good at it. I just don't think you're going to make a ton of money doing it,
Yeah,
and you're not going to mine a ton of Bitcoin doing it. If that
yeah,
if if that is true, then my question is, where can you mine for the next 5 to 20 years? I think the only place you can mine for the next 5 to 20 years is Africa.
yeah. Tell us more about the off grid guys and
Yeah,
what
so
you're working on.
Gridless is
Or
a
gridless. Yep.
company that was, full disclosure, I'm an investor personally. I also advise them a little bit, but it's a company founded by 3 people, and these 3 people help build like the internet backbone in Africa. So they're very skilled at connectivity, which was like
Hmm.
my biggest concern in Africa. I just don't know the landscape well. And so they've got a lot of experience doing that. And so they started a company called Gridless and invested outside myself by people like Jack Dorsey, Elise Colleen at Stillmark, some very talented investors. I, of which am not a talented investor. I'm just kind of a dumb money guy. But the business model is at scale in Africa, the grids are not, the generators are not interconnected. So that's not a grid per se. So like in the States and in Europe and a lot of Central and Southern America, the generators are connected to each other through and their clients through a mesh network of sorts. It is not
Yeah,
like that in Africa. In Africa, if you're not living in a capital city, for more or less, you're buying power from the guy who put a turbine in the river behind your house. And so that is your power company. But he's not connected to any kind of grid, so he can only sell you power when you're at home running the lights.
and you're using it. Yeah. Otherwise,
So
it's
he can
really
sell
not
you
a
power at
profitable
night when
model.
you turn
Yeah.
on your lights, right? And because of that, your power has to be incredibly expensive for him to make his money back on the turbine that he bought.
Yeah.
And because he bought that turbine, he probably bought a small one, which means he can't hit economies of scale. So he paid too much for that turbine also.
Hmm.
And so there's this like catch 22 problem where the community can't use enough because it's too expensive, and the generator can't sell enough because it's too expensive. So it's just like a whole ball game there.
This sounds
And
like
that,
Puerto Rico. Are we talking about Africa?
jeez. So the other side of that is the community, because it's so expensive, they cannot. Most of them don't cook with like electric hot plates. They're cooking with like paraffin wax, and they're cooking with like kerosene.
Oh,
So
interesting.
there's a lot of infant mortality because you're cooking inside with like kerosene because it's cheaper than wood, and like your kid's getting effectively the black lung. So low cost power has a huge impact on these people's lives directly, and that's just like direct impact. The indirect impact are, it's a mostly agrarian community, at
Hmm.
least the places I went in Kenya. And there we ran a pilot where effectively we put machines, Gridless put machines in the turbine house of this generator, and in turn, the generator dropped the power price for the community because they're doing a rev share on the Bitcoin that's mined in the off-peak hours. So from 11 p.m. to 5 p.m. the next day, they're running Bitcoin mining, and then they curtail those for 5 hours. The community uses the power and they turn them back on. So the generator is making Bitcoin. The Bitcoin miner, Gridless in this case, is making Bitcoin,
Hmm.
and the generator is turning the power price down because they're able to monetize more than selling to the community. And so we interviewed this guy who raises cattle there, and he was able to sell his cattle for 3 times more money. And we're like, just by getting cheaper power, how's that profitable? Or how's that make
Yeah.
sense?
Uh,
And he said, well, because I can water my crops more, because I can run my pumps more, my hay has a higher yield, and so my cows are
uh,
fatter and they're way more, and so I get way more for them now
wow.
because you guys dropped the power price from 80 cents to 20 cents. And I was like,
See,
whoa,
this
that's a
is
big
one of
deal.
those like stage 4 and stage 5 outcomes that you
Yeah.
really don't even. realize you're going to start affecting things.
That's right. So the question is, why would that like? How does that make sense? The generators have no alternative. They have
Yeah,
zero alternative. It's not like there's a real-time marketplace they can go and sell their power or whatever. We have that almost everywhere else.
yeah,
And so the generators, everyone I talked to small generators, like just mom and pop, like very small 50 kilowatt turbines, all the way to huge guys who are funded by like Rockefeller Foundation and have billions of dollars on their asset. Ubiquitously, everybody immediately got it and was like, when can we start? Let's go.
yeah.
Because you're acting as a synthetic real time marketplace for them
Well,
to
and this
settle.
is literally this is the model we've been talking about for years and years and years. This idea that we're taking a very local asset or utility commodity like power that is tied to a local grid that can only be generated when people are using it, and we're converting it to essentially a digital global asset or commodity that can be transported anywhere in the world through hash rate. So it's so awesome to see what you guys are doing in Africa. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and again, I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of like, helping where I can, and when
Yeah, I mean,
ministries
yeah.
speak, they buy stuff, right? Like
The royal you, the,
that's right.
the except
So they
isn't that what
yeah, they
investors do anyways? They take credit for for
not me.
the technology, right?
Anybody that knows me knows that uh, I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
There you go.
So the yeah, I think if that's much easier to scale. So they've gotten, and they're not the only ones doing this. There's a company, I forget their name, doing some mining in, I think, D, DPC, Democratic People's Republic of Congo, something like that.
Okay.
There's some people doing it in Ethiopia and a bunch of other places, but these people are starting to like coalesce with each other. They started something called the Green African Mining Alliance, Gamma. Yeah, that's it. Green African Mining Alliance, where they're all like sharing knowledge with each other, software techniques, and like that's been pretty cool. So there's I think there's 5 or 6 companies in that now.
That's
But I think
amazing.
you're just now starting to see what's going to start happening in Africa. It's interesting, man. Like mining started in the States, right? It was mining at scale with ASICs started in the States, Washington State heavily, then it migrated to China, and it came back to the States, went to a little bit to South America, some to Europe, and it came back to the States, and then it came to Texas more. I think you'll start to see that moving more into Africa over the next, as soon as like, because they're right now it's just them, right? Like they buy their own stuff, they mine their own stuff, but you'll start to see like hosting and all kinds of stuff as they get more capacity online because
Yeah.
they'll be able to beat everybody's price because they're doing a rev share with the generator, so their power is free.
And the reality is they're doing it because they need to do it.
Yeah,
Here in the States and just about anywhere else, it's revenue. It's a business. They're making money from it. Anywhere on Earth where this becomes a necessity for life is going to easily beat it out,
right.
because you can't put a price tag on that type of development in an
Yeah,
area.
so they'll be able to mine at any Bitcoin price, right?
Yeah.
At any halving cycle. And so last night at dinner, the Gridless team and I were kind of like I stated my case of like my investment thesis for mining going forward is more so like if you're not pitching as a power company that just uses mining in the States, or if you're not in Africa, like I don't think you win.
Hmm.
So I think Africa, the legs for Bitcoin mining is, I mean, it could be 20 years or more.
Wow.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
it's
fascinating.
crazy. I was talking about this the other day, and just in Puerto Rico, where we see power prices easily at 34 cents a kilowatt hour. And I mean, that's a significant cost when you need to run air conditioning for a good portion of the year because of the humidity.
Yeah, it's
And
not
then
like New
you're
York and Boston where the power's that expensive, but like it's temperate.
exactly. And now you're getting power bills every month of $500 to $600. In some cases, for someone that has to cool off a house, they're paying over $1,000 a month just for
Oh.
electricity, right? And
Woo.
I'll look out on the skyline, or look at some of these houses, and very few of them are actually even running solar.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. What's the solar penetration look like there?
It's very low. And the
Why?
people that can afford it, have it. But I think there's a government tax on solar panels.
Like they tax it as like their resource or something?
I don't know the exact story behind it, but someone was just mentioning it to me the other day that there is actual disincentive to run solar based on government taxes.
Okay,
It's
so another example of regulation screwing everything up.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it. Did you see the
yeah.
SEC just recently started going after miners too?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
miners. I
Uh-huh.
saw the Binance announcement, or Binance
Oh,
US,
tell me. I didn't see it.
where they're essentially announcing that Binance US was running an unregulated securities exchange.
Oh, that's
Y-
way different than an unlicensed money transmitter, right? That's
Yeah. Oh yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah. So I don't have the details on that. I just saw. Yeah. I so that's something to keep an eye out for, of how that's going to play out. What's the latest on SEC and miners?
Yeah, there was I just read that briefly this morning, but the SEC is suing a miner. They're not a miner. They're I think they're a broker technically, or they're I think there was some fraudulent activity as well. So it's not as cut and dry as like, oh, if you sell miners, like it passes the Howey test. I don't think it's as cut and dry as that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you saw all the big exchanges get hit too, right? So like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, but they all got dinged for something else. And it's like the SEC is playing like this regulatory bingo where like, okay, Coinbase is going to get tagged for like this violation, and Kraken's going to get tagged for another violation, but like it's adjacent, so that we can blanket the whole thing and
Yeah.
then regulate everybody by enforcement.
Yeah. A storm's brewing. That's what it
Yeah,
seems
for
like.
sure. It's
So
not a great time if you are dealing with I guess commodities in general, man. I mean, nat gas has taken a huge dive. Nat gas in the States is under $2.
yeah.
Which if you're a miner trying to get a power contract is great, but if you're a commodities guy, it's not great. Uh, I think oil is pretty cheap right now, so I think there's a lot of people overshot the inflation like
Hmm.
expectations, and now they're like, oh, maybe inflation's not over yet. T-bills, I think, for a 12 month hit 5%, which is like really high. So
Man, we're so sophisticated on this episode. I think like the last couple episodes, we're talking about like milk alternatives, and now we're like diving deep into financial interest rates here.
hey, listen, if you want to come to the most uneducated podcast where we just make up most of the things we say, this is the ticket, folks. This is the
don't
one.
don't even bother fact checking what we're saying, 'cause it's just a
I
waste
get
of
all
time.
my information from Bloomberg, Bloomberg
Twitter.
TV every morning, and that is not an exaggeration. There's Bloomberg playing on that TV right now.
Oh no.
We're sophisticated.
Oh yeah. I was gonna one up you with Wikipedia and Twitter, but Bloomberg TV, that's a great one.
Twitter is becoming more and more an oracle of truth, I find. I don't know if you agree with that, but
It really is. I think when Elon took over Twitter and started unblocking people's accounts, and installing the blue check mark for purchase, and I think people started flocking to it as basically crowdsourced truth. And when you have enough people talking in a space, eventually the truth will drown out the misinformation.
have you seen the if somebody posts an article and then comments on it, if it's they allow people to basically say like this is a wrong take and they just read the headline, and
Okay.
then they can give like a community consensus in a TLDR type format of what the article is actually about,
Oh,
and then
interesting.
you can like agree or disagree with that. So
Okay.
I've recently seen that, and it's actually very helpful because I don't want to click on a link and read like a 5-page document. I just want the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, yeah,
And that little TLDR that is derived from the community is like incredibly helpful.
yeah.
So that's a big dude. I love Twitter right now.
So full disclosure, I simply just read the headline that Binance US was being gone after by the SEC. So I don't really know if that's the
Oh
actual case or not.
no.
But if you want to fact check that and post that out on Twitter, go for it. But it was a shocking headline. It had me entertained.
Uh, I wonder if they'd If they're gonna like put this is not right. You should retweet it and see
That's
if you
not
get
right. Yeah,
smashed by the community.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. So okay, so speaking of inflation and interest rates, I have a Chase account, and I'm getting a whopping 0.01% interest on that Chase account. I did a quick Google search the other day, and they have savings accounts now. They're paying upwards of 4.5% interest.
Are you sure it's not a CD?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well,
not a
I think
CD.
the 4.5% one might have been a money market, but they have
Okay.
like Goldman Sachs right now through their Marcus Bank is 3.75%. American
Just savings
Express,
account interest rate?
just a straight savings account interest rate is scraping 4%.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
What? How does
yeah.
that make sense?
It's because they're lending out the money for it's so much
Yeah, I know
now,
that, but they
right?
would have like I mean, they've been running fractional reserve I mean, forever, but the interest rates haven't been that juicy. I think the prime rate's like 6% or something. Like it's a really bad time to buy a mortgage. I do know that.
Oops, did that too.
Well, you should have gone to Twitter.
I should have. Yeah, so it seems a lot of people are moving their assets into the U.S. dollar, and there's a huge play right now
What are they
on
doing?
interest rates. I don't know. They just get such a huge return on their money. So yeah,
Yeah, so
and
what else you have to chat about?
oh, I don't know. I'm buying a house, so I landed on the mortgage rate.
What'd you
There's
get?
I think I'm 6,875.
Oh! Oh!
So I'm looking forward to the
And
refinance.
is that a good rate? I have no idea.
No, I think 6.25. I I don't know. Rates have been going up, so we'll see.
Oh my God, bro. That's well, it's still basically inflation, so like technically you're net even, right?
Oh, I know, right? Anyways, I'm just thinking I like the house, so we're just gonna go with it.
Luckily you can live in it, right?
There you go. Yep, yep.
Sheesh.
So I'm just gonna stay broke for now and
That's right. We're perpetuating the title of the pod, man.
plug in a few more miners.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in I guess in trade off, my kids aren't going to college now, but I think it's well worth it. You know,
Hey, look, priorities, they
College
can
is
pay their way.
overrated. That's right.
Totally. You could just YouTube yourself a degree. Let's be real.
That's true. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody that complains about the type of job that they have or, you know, they want to do something else, but they can't, this, that, and the third, it's all bullshit. It's all an excuse.
Yeah.
You can quite literally YouTube yourself a new career. I've
Ooh,
seen
tell
it.
me more. What's this
Okay.
look like?
So, because we're going to need to be there very quickly.
Yep.
The difficulty keep pumping the way it is. I'll give you a perfect example. A friend of mine, this was maybe like 5 years ago, was working for AT&T, and
Okay.
he called me. He's like, "Hey man, I want to get into programming." I was like, "Okay." So I sent him like a bunch of YouTube links, Khan Academy, like a bunch of things. So like
I feel like just about every
DIY.
developer has had this conversation with a friend
That's
at
right.
some point. Yeah.
That's right. Some people act, some people don't. This guy
Yep.
did. And he like 2 years later, he calls me. He's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like I'm full-time deving now." It's like, "That's awesome. What are you doing?" He was one of the first Microsoft certified gold partners for the HoloLens. So like
Wow.
he was just like developing AR applications for the HoloLens, which is something that like I've never done. And
Yeah.
that's not something that like I pointed him to or anything. I just sent him like, here's how to write Python, here's how to write HTML, CSS, like the normal stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like now he like makes video games.
That's
All
incredible.
from online. He never went to
Yeah.
school, never taught himself anything. He went from selling phones to making games in 5 years.
Wow.
And he's crushing
You
it.
know, it's crazy. I had a conversation about kind of the future of the workforce and content creation and programmers and all this now
Mm.
that AI is moving into the scene, and seeing what Copilot and the different AI bots can do right now with writing code or creating content.
Yeah,
It's
what's your
it's
shake?
absolutely insane.
You think it's a flash or no?
No, I think it's just going to keep developing and getting crazier and crazier.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a point in the very near future where we're not going to know if travel pictures and Instagram pictures are real or AI generated.
So I'll give you that, but like the question is, do you think that there are things of, and this might sound shitty and like egotistical, whatever, like
Yeah,
of
that's right.
real value that those things can do? Like, okay, you can make pictures and whatever. Like, I'm not saying that there's not value in that. Like, you can do all kinds of stuff, but I'm asking like, what I want AI to do is something that's like material impactful to humanity at scale.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, AI should be able to solve fucking cancer,
yeah.
right?
It should be able to.
So like,
Uh,
when do those like super material impactful things start coming?
I don't know. Maybe we're a couple years out on that. I'm not an expert in the cancer arena, except for well, maybe I am. I watched a couple YouTube videos on it, so
Gang, you're
right
an
there,
oncologist now, dude.
done, done. No, there's I don't know how far out we are on that, but I will say for AI generation of text, like writing short stories,
Oh yeah,
doing legal contracts,
it's very good.
um, it's
It's
crazy. Like,
AI is perfect right now today, I think, at killing the middleman. I think
yeah,
most, like, maybe not most lawyers, but like most paralegals are like probably, like, if you do any kind of copyright work,
hmm
you will be either, if you embrace the tech, you'll be greatly augmented and be like insanely more productive, or you're going to be out of a job.
yeah. Well, it's crazy, like with like these like legal contracts and the the text that comes out of these AI bots. You know, they're taking reference material.
Yeah.
So, how much of the reference material are they changing, and how much of the reference material is actually going to show up in the finished product to where it's identifiable?
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering,
I
you
don't
know,
actually know. You know, it's interesting. A lot of people, when ChatGPT first came out, were like, I was reading on Twitter, like they were like posting their story of how they used ChatGPT to help them write a paper, and it was all original content, but most of the teachers have this like anti-plagiarism type software,
yeah,
and it would get flagged.
interesting,
Always would get flagged, which
yeah,
is, I wonder how it gets flagged. There must be like the war of the AIs maybe going on in the back end. I don't know, but there has to be some kind of like trace that it leaves behind, right? So maybe it's a
something.
copy and paste type situation. I'm not
The
sure.
wording is close enough, or the sentence structure is close enough uh, that it's identifiable. It's interesting. So I'm really curious how this is all going to play out, because you have AI generated music now, where you can actually have it, you know, create soundtracks and music tracks, and you know, in the style
In a
of
certain
other artists.
style. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and it's the content, and I think the assumption that we're making is all of this is original created content.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the assumption everyone has right now. I'm waiting for the Twitter headline that comes out that says AI is simply plagiarizing lesser known content. You
Or it
know,
could be like an amalgamation of like a bunch of other content.
yeah.
So
So
yeah, that's yeah, a world that we probably should get more involved in, to be honest.
yeah, we're I get the majority of my news from TikTok and Twitter at this point.
You're good to go then.
It seems like AI is taking over the world, and you know, I'm learning to make some 50 different types of bread recipes all in the same day. So this is the world we live in.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well, that's all I have today, brother man. I don't know if you
yeah,
got any other topics.
that's about it. I mean, we could
Tune
talk
in
just
next
about.
time where we talk about bread and chat GPT augmented recipes.
We could talk about pizza. We should talk about
Y-
pizza one of these days.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
And
And we'll
speaking
get a
of
chat.
pizza, I should
We'll
probably get
do a
on that.
chat GPT. Yeah, you should absolutely get on that.
We'll do AI generated pizza recipes, and we'll see who can create the best
See who
pizza.
comes up with the best one.
There you
I'm I'm actually down for that. 100%.
go. Or
Obviously.
Bitcoin miner powered pizza ovens.
They're not going to get hot enough. You and I both know that. Okay. Stop spreading misinformation. Okay, folks.
That's a
Let me be the.
great Twitter headline, though.
It would be sick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't get hot enough.
Yeah, people don't know that. And
Well, they do now. Okay,
I mean,
I'm the oracle of truth here. I'm the
if
arbiter of truth in this
they listen to
podcast.
the end of this, yeah.
All right,
If
folks.
you stuck it out this far in the podcast, hats off to you. Episode number 5, wrapping up. Thanks for joining us. First 20 minutes were informative. If you made it through the last 13 minutes of Marshall trying to plug in his headset, hats off to you for listening to us.
Till next time, folks.
Cheers.